We are in April, and by now, a lot of you will be planning for a Ladakh trip, be it in a bike or in a car or on a budget using public transportation. In this video, let's talk about the shortest and the safest Ladakh trip you can do. Since this is going to be the shortest possible itinerary, I'm considering you fly from Delhi to Leh. In May, a Delhi round trip flight tickets will cost you approximately 15 to 17,000, and sometimes it can get crazy and go all the way up to 25 to 28,000. Generally, the return tickets are more expensive than Delhi Leh tickets because a lot of people travel on land from Delhi to Manali and then to Leh, and then they fly back from Leh. So obviously the demand is more for the flights returning to Delhi from Leh. Most flights to Leh are during the early hours of the morning. And nowadays, there are flights till early evening, but I would advise you to take the ones that start early. The flight time is about 50 minutes from takeoff, and it's ideal you reach Leh for breakfast. One of the most frequently asked questions is, do I need a travel agent to help me with the Ladakh trip? So if it is just the Nubra Pangong itinerary that most people do that we'll be discussing in this video, well, you actually don't need one. You definitely need permits for your Ladakh trip, and again, I have a detailed video on how to apply for your Ladakh permits. You can watch it here. I put all necessary videos in a playlist called Ladakh Essentials. Please go through that playlist if this is going to be your first trip to Ladakh. By the way, I just turned on my camera and took like 4 steps. Uh, I'm gasping. So, this is what happens when you get airlifted from 300 meters and get dropped in 3,500 meters. For any Ladakh trip, the core rule is pretty straight. Don't take chances with AMS on day one. I've got a detailed video on AMS here, so please watch it if you haven't watched it already. The more you stay idle on day one, the more chances of a successful Ladakh trip you will have. Take risk on day one, well, there's a big chance your entire trip will go for a toss. So, no Kardungla on day one, no Leh Palace, don't even climb stairs fast, at least until evening. Open the windows in your room, and if you're having trouble breathing, sit right next to the window. And if it doesn't subside, and if you're starting to get a headache, call the hotel people asking for help. They should know what to do. Even only if you're not feeling any headache or gasping, you're perfectly fine. You can get to the Leh market or the Shanti Stupa in the evening. And don't take the stairs to Shanti Stupa. The car can go all the way to the top. Again, don't exert too much once you're on top. Walk slowly, sit in a place. If you're making a Ladakh trip in summer, it wouldn't be that cold. So open your windows all night if possible. Drink adequate water, eat well, sleep well, and that marks the most important day of your Ladakh trip. If you are feeling healthy, then day 2 is the usual Ladakh sightseeing day. On this day, go westbound on the Leh Srinagar highway. So you would get to see the Zanskar Indus Sangam, the Magnetic Hills, Pituk Monastery, Basco ruins, and then you get to see one of the most exquisite monasteries in India, Alchi Monastery. You can have your lunch in one of those local joints in Nimmu or Alchi, and then probably you would be back by early evening. So again, time to call it a day. Reason number one for most people to dream about a Ladakh trip is Kardungla, the climbed roof of the world, and the one with the world's highest motorable road tag attached to it. But is it really the world's highest motorable road? Well, we'll see about that next week. The world famous mountain pass is a mere 35 kilometers from Leh town, but the issue is you will be gaining an altitude of about a little over 6,000 feet from Leh town in less than an hour. So keep tabs on your breath and your health. Start as early as possible. It's not the distance being the reason to rush early, but it is the crowd. Generally, there's a queue to take pictures next to the board, and especially if you're traveling between June and August, which is the peak season, the wait time to get a click is much longer. There's a cafeteria on top. Do have a tea or something because there are very few places in the world where you can have a literal high tea or a coffee. As with any mountain pass, you descend on the other side of Kardungla to enter the Nubra Valley, home to the famous Hundar sand dunes. Before you reach Hundar, the Diskit Monastery is another popular destination that everyone visits. You cannot miss the gigantic Maitreya Buddha statue from anywhere in Diskit. You can either book your accommodation in Diskit or in Hundar itself. So, a double backed camel ride is yet another popular bucket list thing to do once you reach the sand dune. and by evening you should be done with everything, and that calls day 3 off. A few years back, whenever you travel to Ladakh, you would have to come back to Leh to proceed to the next destination. And Nubra and Pangong were no exceptions. But that was 5 years back, and I still see a lot of people suggesting the old route. Go to Nubra, come back to Leh, and then go to Pangong. But then you don't have to come back to Leh nowadays. There is a direct route connecting Diskits to Pangong via Shiok. The distance is 160 odd kilometers, and with ideal conditions, you should be able to reach Pangong in about 5 to 6 hours. The distance is not the problem, and so are the roads. For most part, the roads are in great shape. But there is a catch there. There is one river crossing in between, and it practically floods during monsoon months. I mean, between June to August. And the flooding is from a glacial meltdown. So, like any other glacial stream, the melting is minimum during the early hours of the day and maximum during midday and after midday. So, the river crossing is about halfway between Diskit and Pangong around the Shiok River. So, start early, preferably by 5:30 or 6, because only then you will cross the river by around 8 or probably 8:30, after which the flow keeps increasing. There might also be days where you might not be able to cross the river at all when the water level is too high. In that case, you got to come back to Leh or fall back to Nubra. But then that would be a pretty rare occurrence. If everything goes well, you should reach Spangmik for lunch. Spangmik is the village bordering Pangong, and all the Swiss tents, homestays, and camps, they are all in Spangmik, dotting the Pangong. An early start from Nubra also means that you'll have more time to spend in Pangong. Stay at Spangmik to call it another day. Contrary to the past couple of days, you can start day 5 relatively relaxed. On this day, you would be heading back to Leh crossing the Changla Pass. For a long time, Changla was claimed to be the second highest motorable road in the world. And en route back to Leh, there are about half a dozen monasteries. You might visit some, skip some, but the most famous one in eastern Ladakh is Chemistry, just like Alchi in the west. It's got a wealth of artifacts, tankas, and it arguably is the biggest monastery in Ladakh. And by evening, you should be back in Leh, and that marks day 5. No matter how much you plan, Ladakh will always surprise you, not to mention the possibilities of landslides, roadblocks, and whatnot. On paper, you can fly back from Leh to Delhi on this day, but Ladakh always comes with a great deal of uncertainties. And if I were to advise, I will have the sixth day as a backup day and book my return flight tickets on day 7. So, 7. That's the minimum number of days you would need to make a Ladakh trip without compromising on safety and sightseeing possibilities. Let's talk about Kardungla next week. I'm certain I'm going to break a lot of hearts. Until then, travel more, travel safe. See you, buddy.